Meanwhile, in the murder shed,
I literally went because I was like, I want to go see it. I mean, obviously nothing's being spoiled, but I want to go see this film.
He dies, right? By the end.
No, the problem was he didn't.
The problem is, yeah, you can answer that question with both answers.
Yes. So you know, and did Jesus die at the end of the movie? I don't know, actually. Like, there's a lot of the book.
Oh my God, I have to talk to you about how much I fucking hate Tenet.
Do I need to go watch it? You guys hate it in stereo. I just need you to know that right now.
Because we were assaulted
Like,
in stereo.
Just for a minute, before we go on to the thing that we meant to do today, I hate Tenet. I think that Memento is an amazing film. Batman Begins is awesome. The Prestige is in my top 10 movies, maybe.
Oh, it's in my top 5.
And if not, it's in my top 10 or 5 theater experiences, because I do make the distinction between the two. And we should talk about top 5 stuff today after this.
Okay.
I am not like an anti-Christopher Nolan person, but I have progressively hated all of his movies since Heath Ledger died. I hate Inception, so if you love Inception, this opinion is not going to mean much to you. But Tenet is legitimately one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Really?
And it all comes down to the soundscaping in that movie is offensive and an intentional assault. Like, the first thing is an orchestra warming up and the dissonance of that orchestra warming up, but it's cranked as high as it can go. It's at 100%. It's made aggressive and annoying on purpose. And that lasts the rest of the movie. The street tone is like balanced for what street tone really is before your ears learn how to tune it out. Like, the street tone covers up dialogue. Important, necessary dialogue in that movie.
There's a cold war, cold as ice. We even know its true nature is to lose.
Like, you actually can't hear anything. Christopher Nolan says that's on purpose. And he said that it was his intention to make a muddled movie and that you shouldn't put that much emphasis on dialogue because it's just one part of movies like other stuff.
Everything about what you just said just made me cringe.
It made me mad before I knew it, but I knew it was going to be bad, and then I tried to watch it. We watched it, and
it was...
We paused it 10, 15 minutes in because of another thing I'm going to complain about in a second. But pausing it reminded us of what silence was like. Maybe in the theater you could adjust to this. It is the most... Okay, Christopher Nolan has seemed to develop this ethos of, fuck you for watching my movies, you piece of shit. You want to watch a movie? You want to enjoy a movie? The street tone in Tenet is a higher level than dialogue in other films. Like, it's higher sometimes than explosions in other movies. It is this onslaught of noise, and it is intentionally designed to irritate you.
It's not just the street tone, it's the... There would be the soundtrack or the music underneath, but then also there would just be a tone. Like a repeating just...
It was intentional. Why? I didn't want to hire a sound guy so everything's on camera.
No,
It's
that's
what
what
it
I said.
felt like.
But no, apparently he very deliberately made this choice and said, no, it's supposed to be loud. You're supposed to not be able to hear it. You're supposed to not be able to hear it. Like, that sentence is the stupidest thing I've said today.
On top of that, there are 3 or 4 lines that are the worst writing I have ever seen in a movie with a budget over $20 million. These are real lines I'm about to tell you, and I might be getting it slightly off, okay? I might be getting it slightly off. But at the beginning of the movie, he's introduced to this concept that bullets can fire in reverse. The scientist is showing our main character that if you like think about catching a bullet, you can kind of make the bullet jump up to you and does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so like truncate all of this and you just tell me bullets, just say the sentence, bullets go backwards, right? And I'm going to tell you the response in the movie.
Bullets go backwards.
What about free will?
You got me there.
No, that's an actual line, and that's another point where we just stopped the movie and had to appreciate how stupid that line was.
I think that's when we stopped it the first time. And then we stopped it the first time because I was so mad at that line of dialogue, but then the silence, like it was bad enough that I couldn't hear it, but then it was that bad once I did. And what was the other line?
The other one is he's talking to the Indian lady, and she's like, "Oh, it looks like we need to find ourselves a fresh-faced protagonist."
That's verbatim.
Literally the line.
Verbatim.
To get anywhere near it, I would take a fresh-faced protagonist.
I want to talk for a second about Christopher Nolan and Mark Maron, right? Because these two guys are very talented people, and I respect them very much, right? But they are dismissive and snobbish about genre. Mark Maron just thinks that science fiction is stupid, and he thinks that fantasy is stupid. He's welcome to do so. But every once in a while, I hear that guy talk about science fiction or fantasy, and he's talking about something that to us would be so remedial because it was a concept we were introduced to 20 years ago, and there's been a lot of development. Because he's a snob about that stuff and doesn't engage with it, he thinks the remedial version of the idea is mind-blowing. I don't even mind that because he's a stand-up comedian that has a podcast. Christopher Nolan's a filmmaker, and I think he thinks that everything except for what he thinks of is beneath him in genre stuff. And so there's a time element to this movie, and there's two sequences that are pretty cool. Besides that, I think he is such a snob. There are probably some other people, like he might think that Darren Aronofsky's science fiction is worthy of his time or whatever, right? But I feel like he is just so snobbish and feels like that these concepts are so beneath him that then he then made this movie Tenet that's got a temporal aspect to it. And the whole time, it's like he's sitting there doing this to your face because he thinks he's blowing your mind so much because you've never heard of anything like this because he hasn't. But when you watch that movie, it's going to be like his hands are right here and you're like, yeah, time travel, okay. Are you going to do something with it? Or are you just going to talk about it the way that we heard about it in the 80s? Like, okay, man, cool.
No, we called the movie in the beginning. Like, and not even in like an aggressive way. Like one little thing happened, and we're like, oh, okay.
It's that.
So it's this and this, and then that's gonna come back around, and it just was like there was nothing.
Which is my whole irritation with Inception too. I sat down in the theater to watch Inception, and in the first 4 minutes of that movie, I just plotted it out beat for beat, and I was like, if you weren't an imaginative person, this is what the movie would be. It's exactly what that movie was. This was that, but worse.
But what about free will?
And then,
we used our free will to watch that movie, and it was a mistake.
It was expensive, Will.
But like let's take your joke that you just said, okay, but make it the Tenet movie, right? So Taylor, say what about free will?
What about free will?
That was Tenet. Like there's a later aspect of the movie where there's like 2 directions in time that people are going, and there's some cool ideas visually in there about how that's expressed. But like, okay, you have causality and determinism, and then you have free will and multiple universes, right? There's been one exception to doing both. You can't do both, but not only does he do both, he does one or the other when he feels like it for convenience.
Yeah.
There's some clever plotting in this movie, and there's some great acting in this movie.
Oh, and some fucking amazing cinematography. I will always give that to Christopher Nolan, that the cinematography is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But
who shoots? Is it Deakins? Who does his cinematography?
well, nothing was blacked out of the credits.
Hoyt van Hoytema?
That sounds made up.
Name.
All names are made up.
Hoyt van Hoytema. Phenomenal talent, including Christopher Nolan. I'm not calling him an untalented guy. I'm calling him a fucking hack. Like, I'm calling him a guy that, like, digs 1 inch deep into an idea of his and then thinks he's so brilliant that no one's ever thought of this. Read some fucking Heinlein first. You got to get past the right-wing stuff. But read some Asimov first. Read some people who have already done time travel. Read some comic books. Watch some movies.
Yeah.
Like it was the same with Inception and Interstellar and Tenet. It was the movie starts and you're like, oh, it's this. It's this because I was alive in the 90s. So I understand all these ideas. I feel the same way about Christopher Nolan as I did about Rian Johnson when he directed The Last Jedi. Rian Johnson, it's not Rian Johnson's fault. He was hired to make a Star Wars movie. Everything else was his fault, but that wasn't his fault. That's not what they should have done. Like clearly, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni should have been the guys in charge. It's not his fault that decision was made poorly by Kathleen Kennedy, right? I've seen Knives Out. It's a great film.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just go back in time.
I love Brick. I really like 70% of Looper. I like Rian Johnson.
I love Brick.
The Last Jedi was watching an extraordinarily talented football player defying physics and the limitations of the human body to create spectacular stunts across other players to score a goal for the wrong team. And that's what Christopher Nolan is like for me now. Insane talent, like coming out of his pores talent, but his talent is not in writing. Like, we need a fresh-faced protagonist is a sentence that, like, Final Draft should actually flag as it's time to hire a writer. Like,
fucking Cruciatus Curse, are you sure?
That movie forced me, after it was over, to chew on and process dialogue that was that badly written. I have never been so stressed out and assaulted by a film and also bored. It would have been a bad $1 million movie. The reason I'm so mad about this is because it was all the money that movies got last year went into Tenet, and it was this bad. But anyway, a minute ago, we were talking about... Let's do some top 5 stuff.
Okay.
Why not?
Yeah,
like,
for
that
sure.
sounds kind of fun.